Hello and welcome to the Philippines. Retirement planning. Life happens while you're planning it. So I'm going to give you some advice, some thoughts about planning and surviving retirement. Number one, like these folks, I'm not sure what this organization is, but number one, stay active wherever you are, whatever your plans are, whatever your condition is. Stay active. Do something. This is Sun Vida condominiums right across the street from SM Mall in Cebu City. And coming along on this walk, a little bit of a rainy day. I'm walking from SM Mall in Cebu City, walking to the uptown area. I like to walk. It's one of my hobbies and exercise mentally and physically. And I'm going to walk through an area that many times over the years people have suggested don't walk that street, don't walk in that area. It's a rough area. You're going to have problems. And yet I can tell you only on a couple of occasions have I been aggressively approached by somebody wanting money, and I haven't had any. I used to carry, because of those warnings, I used to carry pepper spray with me, and I always carry an umbrella with me if I need to use that to fend somebody off. But I've never had to use any of that. And at night, if I'm walking at night, and I walk through those areas at night, I carry a really bright flashlight. And the biggest problem I've had is not with people, but with dogs. And I've had people greet me day and night. Hello, sir. Hello, Joe. And been very friendly. But I have been, I, I limit myself. I don't go through the same areas often or regular times because I don't want people to know my routine. Anyway, let's get back to retirement planning. And getting back to staying active, I have heard of many cases and read of many cases where people said, "Hey, yeah, when they wanted to retire, they went fishing and fished at all the spots they wanted to go fishing at, or they had a long list of things to do around the house, and they fixed everything, and they painted everything, and when they were done, they kind of lost their purpose. They finished that list of things. They fished at all the fishing holes, and they started getting bored, and then they ended up sitting in front of a TV set and lost their purpose in life and just kind of existed. And when you lose your purpose, think about going to work. You have a purpose oftentimes, and that gives you strength, motivation, energy. And once you stop your activities, you can lose that motivation to live. And some people, that's the direction it goes downhill from there. So stay active. Number two, get happy and stay happy. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. There are videos online about breathing techniques to help with emotional, psychological issues. There's meditation. Some people have luck with that. I need a good laugh every day, and there's a number of comedians that I listen to get a good laugh every day. It helps change my disposition. Ismo, a Finnish comedian I just came across, really funny guy. And John PINETTE, he died unfortunately a number of years ago. Really funny guy, and a number of other people out there too. Sometimes you just need to take a break from life and have a good laugh. Well, that condominium up ahead of us, San Remo, I believe. I've done a video there, and I've done thousands of videos about condominiums, rentals, buying, cost of living. If you're young enough where you're planning for retirement, do your best to save much more money than you think you're going to need, because retirement costs more than I thought it was going to be. And I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay, but I've met many expats who kind of run out of money. They didn't plan well. They didn't plan for inflation, and right now all over the world experiencing the inflation, the high energy costs, gasoline costs, travel costs. Um, you're going to have medical expenses, dental expenses. So do your best to save a lot more money than you think you're going to need for retirement. There are calculation things that you can get online that help you prepare, but considering where you're going to live will have a big factor. This is, I believe it's San Remo condominium. I've done a video in there, and for those of you who don't know, I've got over 1,000 videos, a lot of videos about condominiums, housing developments, cost of living. The real estate agents in the mall would grab me and say, "Come and look at my condominium." I always had a camera, would take videos. What do they look like inside? How are they furnished? How much do they rent for? I read a lot of books about the Philippines, and the cost of living here, and the culture, the history. Watched a lot of videos, did a lot of research, online sites before I came here, and I had determined that I should be able to live at a certain level, at a certain budget. And when I got here, although I could have kept searching, I found that my cost of living was higher than what I thought it was going to be. And I think I looked at 6 condominiums when I first came here to Cebu City, and finally grabbed one, a real small one. And I was surprised how little I got. They downsized condominiums about 8, 9, 10 years ago, trying to fit in with the fast growth, trying to fit more people in the same space. My third advice is, if you move to a foreign country or another part of your own country or across Europe or whatever, accept that culture for what it is. The language, the food, the culture for what it is. And talking specifically about the Philippines, I've done a number of videos about this, but culture shock in a number of areas. And this is a new Gaisano Mall. It's replacing the, I think, White Gold Mall just further down the street from this. It's going to be a much larger mall, just a couple blocks from the big SM Mall. But anyway, it's the culture shock can be pretty great. Watching videos and getting some feel. But once your feet are on the ground, your experience is going to be different. Your perceptions are going to be different than all of the rest of us. Good and bad. The food, the smells, the sounds, the noise, the pollution, the poverty can be overwhelming. I know a number of expats who they come here for a few months, then they go back to their country, or they travel to they go Thailand and the Philippines for a few months each, and Malaysia, and Vietnam, Cambodia maybe, and they move around because they and I tell people, and I tell myself, and I do it. It's good to get out of town, get out of your area, travel a little bit, because the culture, a different culture, can be a bit overwhelming. And sometimes just leaving that area for a few days or a couple weeks, whatever, is a good way to take that break, come back refreshed, and have a new appreciation perhaps. I've lived in Cebu City, Cebu, the Philippines, 3 trips to the Philippines, once back to the U.S., once to Vietnam, and then back here. Been here about a total of 7 years, and I've moved to 6 different condominiums. Most of the cases I've moved because of noise, try to get away from the noise. I lived overlooking IT Park, and they were building new restaurants and such there, and turning all their big boombox speakers on, and just no way I could. My business in U.S. was noise control, but there was just, I was able to seal my windows and balcony door overlooking IT Park and block out, reduce some of the decibels, but not nearly enough.
Uptown, close to. I live close to PINETTE Circle, so I like to walk.
You like a taxi?
No, I walk. Even from Mandawi, I walk all the way to Carbone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, good exercise.
Interesting, she was one of the very few females you see selling water out in the traffic. She had stopped. She was going to help try to get me a taxi if I wanted a taxi. That's how helpful I've found Filipinos to be. And the bottle of water usually costs, I think taxi drivers get it for 10 pesos. It usually costs 15 pesos, about 30 US cents. And I paid 15 at the place I used to live for a whole 5-gallon bottle. I've been approached with "give me money" a couple times on this walk. This is my second attempt at this video. I had done it, I had it all rendered, ready to upload, and I decided, no, sometimes I'm just not happy. You spend hours on a video, and I wasn't happy, so I'm redoing this a little bit, make it a little bit better. I'm going to walk down this way a little ways, and then I'm going to cross over and go back up to Mango Avenue and then walk Mango Avenue. Even though the name of Mango Avenue was changed, I think maybe just after World War II, as a matter of fact, I think. Long time ago anyway. And it's now officially General Maxilome Avenue. But still, I've seen maps recently, even and they still call it Mango Avenue. I suppose there were a lot of mango trees there, that would make sense. And Mango Square down near Fuente Osmeña Circle used to be a huge entertainment center with many bars, and drew a lot of people, especially on weekends. And most of the bars, almost all the bars are shut down in that particular area. They did have 1 or 2 new discos open up recently. They'll get a little bit of a younger crowd during the weekend. But the bars, pretty much for the most part, no. Guy holding a rooster. Only in the Philippines, I think. Cockfighting is a popular sport here. They've got cockfighting pits, and they've got online cockfighting. And here and in Puerto Rico, I think, a territory of the U.S., is an area that it's still legal. Many people own roosters and take them to these fights, and one of the reasons why it doesn't matter wherever you live in the Philippines, you're going to hear roosters crowing almost anywhere, unless you're in the middle of let's say a Makati, a commercial, upscale industrialized commercial area, like Cebu Business Park, like IT Park in Cebu City. And there, if you're facing out towards, away from that area, then you'll probably hear it too, because you're going to get the various poorer living regions, and a lot of those people will have chickens and roosters. The Philippines is a very noisy country. The noisiest country I've ever visited. And it's accepted, even in, you go into restaurants, and I don't know how many times, I bet 9 times out of 10, I've got to ask them, can you please turn the volume down? I can't even talk to the person across the table. But I suspect that they grow up with loud noise, high volume, and they think that's normal. In many countries of the world, there are noise control laws. You're allowed to make a certain amount of noise, certain decibel level of noise on your property during the day, and a lower level in the evening, and at your border, your property border, there's even less of your noise that is allowed to go and bother other people. And I thought the Philippines had a little bit of noise control laws, and I think they do. They're just not enforced. Governor Garcia mentioned, because the state capital's in Cebu City, she mentioned to one of the senators recently, why don't you pass a law against these loud motorbikes? Because we have in a meeting, we've got to stop everything we're doing until those loud motorbikes pass by, and that can happen many times during a meeting. And I've noticed over the last few years, more and more very, very loud motorbikes. And once you lose control of that type of situation, it's difficult to get that control back. They have been, in some of the traffic checks, I've read that they have been confiscating some of these motorbikes and cars. They get all sorts of sirens and different things to think that they can make other traffic get out of their way. Motorbikes with truck horns or fog horns, sirens, and other noisemakers. Another piece of advice is to have a backup plan, or 2 or 3 backup plans actually, and cash to make it happen if that's required. These last 2.5+ years really puts that in focus. You don't know what these governments are going to do. Restrict your travel, restrict so many things about how you live your life and how it affects your livelihood and your well-being. This was interesting here. You've got it's confusing sometimes, the hand signals these traffic enforcers use, and stop and come can look almost the same. The girls ahead of me, they thought he was saying, yeah, come and cross the road, and his hand signal is you can see how they're shaking their hand. And that was a little bit funny, because they were, in good-natured way, they were arguing with the traffic enforcer. Well, you're motioning for us to come, and then you get upset because we start coming, and then you tell us to stop. Your hand signal was not very clear, and I've had that happen. I've had that happen. Well, is he telling me to stop or to come? Until you're. And even the Filipinos walking there ahead of me, they were confused. They weren't sure what they thought. They thought he was signaling for them to come. And anyway, that brings us to the very important subject of money and having access to your money. As I mentioned before in a video, I was here not quite 6 months, or just over 6 months, I forget, and my pension check didn't get deposited in my U.S. bank account, and I waited a week and a half, and then I called Social Security, and they said, well, we sent you a letter way back many months ago, and what had happened is, when you're going to retire, you tell them what month you're going to retire, how much money you think you're going to make up to that point, and they calculate your retirement based on that. Well, what happened, I ended up working several months longer than I had planned before I retired, and made more money therefore, so my calculations were wrong. And they basically said, well, we paid you more than we would have if you wouldn't have made that extra money. And so your pension is cut off for 6 months, and that will make up that difference. And they said, well, if you want, because the U.S. consulate in Cebu City doesn't handle Social Security issues, you can go to Manila Social Security office. I guess that's what it is, or the embassy. And you can put in a request. It might take a couple months, but then what they'll do, they'll take a little less off maybe each month for a couple of years, something like that. And I said, no, I'll just bite the bullet and get it over with, not have any income for 6 months. And I've run into a number of expats. One guy was I run into him in the consulate. I was down there taking care of some business early on, and he was disabled, and he had given the government, Social Security, I guess, a foreign address as his permanent address, and they send out a "Are you alive?" letter, I think once a year, and he never got the letter, so he didn't respond to it. If you don't respond to it, they assume you aren't alive, and they cut all your benefits off. And I think it probably took him a couple months to get that straightened out. Mango Hotel, I think. And then they changed it. Somebody bought it, changed the name to the White Knight. And then during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, they had a fire, and it's been up for sale or lease, I think, ever since, or lease at least. Many of these businesses to the left here and on the other side of the street closed permanently, apparently, over these just victims of these lockdowns for 2 years. I've had a couple of friends who've come here, and they've notified their banks, they've notified their credit card companies that they're going to be traveling out of the country, and didn't think they'd have any problem. Then they waited until they needed cash and went to the ATM machine, and their transaction is not accepted, and takes them a couple of days to get that straightened out with their bank, to call them, and even though they've notified them priorly. And anyway, what I suggest is when you get here or anywhere is check out the financial system, the ATMs, however you're going to get your money transfer services. Make sure it works. Don't wait until the day you need that cash to use that, because there's a good chance that you're going to have issues. I've been using, for quite some time, I've been using ATM machines. I go to HSBC Bank, which has one branch office here across from, pretty close to Ayala Mall, and I can take out 40,000 Philippine pesos, and my Wells Fargo bank gives me a really good exchange rate, and HSBC doesn't have a charge. Most banks in the Philippines, I think, allow you to withdraw 10,000 per withdrawal, 10,000 pesos, about $200 US. There's a couple, I think BPI allows 20,000 pesos, I believe, but then depends upon how much your bank back home will allow at the same time, and then keep in time the time difference if it's a daily thing. I have used a number of money transfer services. I was using Zoom, XOOM, for a while. They're owned by PayPal, and they didn't give me the best exchange rate, but it was convenient. I didn't have any hassles with them. So I would send myself money once a month usually, and then they became a little more difficult to use, and wanted even though I'd used them many times, all of a sudden they wanted extra information, and that particular time I wanted the money that day, and I'd usually get it almost immediately, go down to the money transfer company and pick up my cash. And so I started using my ATM again, and then I've just made it a habit because it's just so convenient, and I get a good exchange rate. My bank charges me $5, and HSBC doesn't charge me anything, so it works for me. I have done other videos on money transfers and money transfer services. I will do another one soon because things have changed, things have evolved. And I have gained experience, not only my personal experience, but the experience of other expats who have told me about some of their experiences, good and bad. You should have 2 or 3, I would say 3 ways to get money. Because if one of the money transfer services decides that you are a fraud, and it's happened to many people. They've commented on my channel. Many of them say they all talk to one another. It's like a credit rating, and say this guy is a risk, so be careful. And it might be difficult to set up another account, so I suggest you get those accounts set up. Make sure you have an ATM card that is, and not all ATM machines in the Philippines accept foreign cards, especially once you get out of the city. And a lot of businesses, this is still pretty much a cash society, and even a lot of resorts, when I travel a little bit, resorts that I thought would take a credit card didn't take a credit card, so I had to, I was running out of cash because I was paying for resorts with cash. And then I had to find in these towns that had, I think, one area, I forget, maybe it was Siquijor Island, one bank ATM in town that would accept foreign cards, and sometimes it wasn't working. Fortunately, it was when I needed it. The Philippines is still a very welcoming nation, welcoming of foreigners, friendly, and like I've stated many times, it helps if you're friendly first. I say hello to a lot of people, and they don't know who you are, they don't know what country you come from, what language you speak, and so if you make some effort to be friendly, 99% of the time they're friendly back. Very few times that I've met people, encountered anybody that, whatever reason, just like people in every country are, anti-foreigner, anti-immigrant, whatever. As far as travel in the Philippines right now, for the most part, you have to be what they call fully vaccinated. That doesn't make a lot of sense, because most of the people who have been vaccinated, even with boosters, those things start waning after 4, 5, 6 months. So and everybody should know by now that whether you're vaccinated or not, you can get the virus and you can spread the virus with basically the same viral load. And I stopped in that motorbike helmet store and bought a couple things in there. This is the area right across the street from Mango Square, just behind me. There was about 3 bars back in there, and I'm told, security agent told me they're going to take these areas down and build a condominium over here. So don't know when that's all going to happen. And then over there used to be several bars over in that area. It's called Mango Square. And virtually no bars anymore. And so anyway, completely changed. Mostly fast food places. There's a laundromat over there, 7-Eleven, I think. I've done other videos about the bars in the area. I'll try to find that video and link it at the end of this video. But back to travel. If you are in the Philippines, it depends upon the region that you're in. Governor Garcia of Cebu Province, that does not include the 3 cities, I think Cebu City, Mandaue City, and Lapu-Lapu City on Mactan Island are independent, I believe. She has control over the rest of Cebu Island and Cordova part of Mactan Island, I think. I'm not sure about the rest of it. That's not Lapu-Lapu, I believe. Somebody will correct me. But anyway, she understood long ago that how important, how much damage these lockdowns have been to people's livelihoods and the economy, and wanted to open up the economy. She's had some pushback from the Department of Health and other people in government. But we are seeing what she put out an executive order many months ago stating foreigners could fly into Cebu unvaccinated and do quarantine, and such. Some people are
Hello,
successful.
Barcode Sports Bar. All right, maybe later.
Very nice picture, sir.
Okay.
And I've been told others have not been successful. Part of it depends upon the airline. Philippine Airlines says, no, you aren't going to fly. Some people have had success with, I think, Singapore Airline. They understand what Cebu allows, and they go along with that. Philippine Airlines, for some reason, does not. It's not part of that. You would think they would be promoting people coming to the Philippines. Somebody told me they had luck with Korean Air, but I'm not sure of the details there. So if you've got time and money and you want to take that chance, your risk is no greater catching it. The risk is there's certain groups that are at risk of severe a flu, virus, influenza, whatever, and everybody should know what they are. If you're unwell, if you're very old and unwell, I think in the UK the average age of death was like 82 from COVID. If you are not a healthy person, there's a long list of comorbidities, of health issues, obesity, diabetes, heart issues, lung issues, that if you have those kind of things, you're more susceptible. The average healthy person, especially healthy and young, shouldn't have any worries about having a severe case. And the big deal with the lockdowns was to try to limit the huge numbers of people that might end up in the hospitals and overwhelm the staff. At the present time, cases are dropping, I think, all over the Philippines, and they say the hospital usage is low enough where they can handle even some type of surge if there was such a thing. The various variants have been basically pretty relatively mild. Over 55 countries has opened up completely, no vaccine required, no mask required. Come, spend money, travel freely, and help the economy and people's livelihoods recover. The CDC, Centers Control, Disease Control in the U.S. Stated that if you have symptoms, you should wear a tight-fitting medical-grade mask. So they've finally admitted too that that is the type of mask. This here is Ramos Street, where the famous 301 Ramos Bar and Resto Bar is down the street here a bit. KTV, like karaoke bar over there. As far as traveling, if you are in the Philippines, it really varies by region. Some ferries will require the one pass. Up until just recently, I don't know, like Davao had its own QR code. Different areas and regions had their own QR codes, passes, health passes, and such. So you really have to ask around. I went to Dumaguete with some Filipino friends a few months ago. Didn't have any issues getting on the ferry going over there. Nobody asked for anything along the way. So what the official statement is and what reality is are often two different things. But you just have to ask. Anyway, thanks for coming along. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good luck with your planning to travel, and we'll see you next time.